What is going on, everybody? It's the Front, and we're here for a Monday Night Raw review for August the 10th, 2020. We are 2 weeks away from SummerSlam, and this is supposed to be... Now it has a tagline of, "You'll never see it coming." What does that actually mean? Well, tonight we had a contract signing between Seth Rollins and Dominik, plus Dominik signed his WWE contract officially, and then was welcomed to WWE in the most brutal way possible. More of the Raw Underground bullshit that nobody's going to care about. Retribution continues to look like a very, very bad idea. And Kevin Owens took on Randy Orton in the main event. Plus, Bayley took on Asuka. If Asuka wins, she takes on Sasha Banks at the next pay-per-view, aka SummerSlam. So this was, honestly, the opening of the show, Asuka versus Bayley, and the ending of the show were the 3 best parts of this show. The rest of it, you can miss and not miss a thing. Now, we're live. On tape delay, we go right to the ring, and Samoa Joe has a microphone. He hypes up the SummerSlam contract signing between Dominik Mysterio, which is his ring name, and he did have music tonight, and Seth Rollins, which Dominik Mysterio's theme music seemed like it was a remake or like a rehash or like a remix somewhat of his father's theme music. Joe says the contract signing is a lot different because one of the competitors will be signing a contract that will also make him an official WWE superstar. He goes on and introduces Rollins, says, "There's a couple expletives I would like to say about this first guy, but I've been reminded of my professionalism," and he knows that he cannot say what he wants to say. So he brings him out. Then he brings out Dominik, who has theme music, as I said, who comes out with a kendo stick. And honestly, Seth Rollins, of course, sees this kendo stick when Dominik gets in the ring, and he's just laughing. It's like, "Man, Samoa Joe here just called you like this, like, said you're like a grown-ass man and everything, but I see you bring this kendo stick out. What's up with this? I don't see a man here. I see a coward." Then Samoa Joe's like, "You know what? He's right. This kendo stick would be fine just with me." Then Samoa Joe goes off saying he should be seeing Seth freaking Rollins and not this self-proclaimed Monday Night Messiah. Seth freaking Rollins, who is supposed to be the best wrestler of his generation. And that is not what we see. We see this guy who couldn't handle the fans booing him, so he took that as a sign to do whatever he needed to do to do whatever he needed to anyone at any time. So, of course, Seth Rollins is not happy about that. He wants to know what is it going to take for people to appreciate what he is doing. He wants to... Hold on. Also, apparently, Samoa Joe is not medically cleared, and that's why he is not able to get physical. Which I don't buy one bit. Samoa Joe has been medically cleared, really, for a while. I think it's been for about 4 or 5 months, and they just don't want to use him right now because X, Y, and Z. I say that they don't want to really use him for the simple fact is Samoa Joe continues to get injured really, really fast. I mean, he missed WrestleMania because of suspension/injury, and here he is now on commentary. And I think they see more value in him as a commentator right now than in a wrestling ring. Now, Rollins says Dominik is here about to live his dream as a WWE superstar and doesn't even realize it's all because of Rollins. Rollins says he should be thanked. Dominik says, "You're right. This is my dream. This was my dream. But now my dream is to kick Rollins' ass at SummerSlam." Rollins laughs, but Dominik stares him down. Rollins says, "We all know how Dominik wouldn't last 10 seconds in a standard wrestling match with him." He says he's the best wrestler of the generation, so he's going to do Dominik a favor. Since Dominik seems handy with the kendo stick, he can bring that and use it any way he sees fit, or any other tool in the toolbox for SummerSlam. Rollins wants there to be no excuses from Dominik or his family when Rollins ends his career. They both signed the contract. Dominik also signs his Superstars contract. And then Rollins is like, well, let's give a round of applause to the newest WWE superstar. Now get out of my ring. You need to pay your dues. Go sit down and watch as I take on the newest and latest jobber in WWE, Humberto Carrillo. Of course, as we know, Humberto Carrillo has been helping the Mysterio family here and there, but also losing every single time. But it is what WWE has to do, that he is just... It's not good for him. But, yep, that is Seth Rollins, who's going to take on and kick Humberto Carrillo's ass, plain and simple. And that's exactly what he does. This match was not worth really anything. Carrillo gets beat with the stomp, but after the bell, Murphy immediately attacks Mysterio, stomps away, he rolls Mysterio into the ring, and they double team him to booze. Mysterio avoids a stomp and then keeps fighting, but Rollins and Murphy get the upper hand again. Murphy brings the kendo stick into the ring and unloads on Dominik. Murphy rips Dominik's shirt off, and Rollins continues the kendo stick shots, and you can see the welts building up on Dominik. But it gets worse. Now, Rollins and Murphy trap Dominik in the ropes, and he continues the beating of Dominik Mysterio with the kendo stick. Then the kendo stick broke, so he sends Murphy out to get some more. Murphy brings in a couple of kendo sticks. Seth is happy as can be. Then hands one to Murphy, and it's like, I'm gonna get the front, you get the back. So that happens. They start beating him back to front, back to front, back to front, back to front. And it's just so brutal, so hard to watch. I commend Dominik for taking these shots. Eventually, he does, as they're hitting him, he does eventually pop free. But Seth Rollins continues to wail on Dominik with the kendo sticks. Then he looks to wind up for a stomp, as it looks like Dominik's trying to get himself up, and then Dominik just falls over, passed out. Seth laughs about this, walks out of the ring, and the final shot of this we see is the back, the brutal, brutal back of Dominik Mysterio, getting as it all ends. It was not pretty whatsoever. Then we go to commercial break, and back from break we see what happened with Dominik. The announcers play up the seriousness of the situation. We get a video package of Retribution and all their bullshit that we saw last week. And I'll have things to say about them when we get to it here in a bit. Andrade takes on Angelo Dawkins. Now, context here. This past weekend, Zelina Vega was on her Twitch stream with Kayla Braxton. They're having a chat. I don't know. I didn't actually tune in or anything. But towards the end of it, Zelina Vega, as I saw the video of what happened here, but Zelina Vega just has this look of, what the fuck? And then she says, what the hell are you doing in my house? And it's Bianca Belair jumps on her, starts beating the piss out of her. Kayla Braxton's grammar freezes, and all you hear is just somebody getting her ass kicked. Now, this was great. This was great. Unfortunately, WWE allowed this angle to happen the weekend before a taped episode of Monday Night Raw. So everyone coming in to the show, hoping Zelina Vega would address the attack, would say something about the attack, were highly disappointed because Zelina Vega got her ass kicked. But then she didn't. Then she came onto this show and didn't say anything. There was no talk whatsoever of, and it's like they swept it under the rug. And I'm thinking to myself, no, that's not what happened. They didn't have this, the match. It's not like Zelina Vega and the attack was done right before they did the taping last week, and then it was aired on her Twitch stream this past weekend. That's not how that happened. If the attack would have happened this coming weekend, and then we came to next week, and then they had that promo, they would have talked about it. But there was no reason to even try and talk, even have any mention of it, simply because it happened live while this show is pre-taped from last week. Now, could the commentators said something? They could have written, they could have had something put in there to have the commentators post-production mention it. They could have showed the video clip, but no, none of that. And people are going to throw a fit, and they're going to bitch and complain for the simple fact is this didn't get mentioned. Now, Andrade, Angel Garza, and Zelina Vega all come down. Andrade is taking on Angelo Dawkins. Montez Ford is nowhere to be found simply because of all of this. Vega takes the mic and dismisses the idea she had anything to do with Montez Ford's poisoning last week. She says she had nothing to do with it. She asked what kind of manager would she be if she ruined the title shot for her clients at SummerSlam. She said Bianca Belair can learn a lot from her, and says she had nothing to do with the poisoning, but she will have everything to do with the title change at SummerSlam. Out comes Angelo Dawkins, does his normal entrance without Montez Ford. He walks to the rings, the lights go out, we get this stupid retribution shit again. Back to commercial break. Back from break. We get a break from the break. Thomas shows us footage of the Big Show in Netflix Game On, a comedy crossover shit. I don't give a shit. And then we have this match. And, of course, what happened last week? You had Angel Garza versus Angelo Dawkins, and Dawkins lost. What did you think was going to happen this week? Angel Garza, did you think Andrade was going to beat Dawkins? No. I didn't. Nobody should have. It is what it is. But towards the end of the match, Andrade goes to the top, but Dawkins catches him midair. Dawkins covers, but Vega gets on the apron and distracts the referee, spoiling the pin. Bianca Belair, who, mind you, was going to have a match with Vega right after this match, decides to wait till the end of this match to come down and stop Vega from getting involved. There's chaos now, and Andrade charges, but Dawkins catches him with a cash out, driving him into the mat. 1, 2, 3, Dawkins picks up the win. After the bell, Garza is checking on Vega with Bianca yelling at him. She brings Vega into the ring, but Vega retreats back to the floor. Belair stands tall in the ring and taunts Vega as we go back to commercial break. And then we come back for Zelina Vega versus Bianca Belair. Now, the entire match for this match is Bianca Belair trying to get her hands on Zelina Vega, and Zelina Vega doing everything she can to stay away from Bianca Belair, which is fine. I mean, Zelina Vega is normally not a wrestler, even though she can wrestle. But the whole idea is, like, she's swearing up and down she had nothing to do with the poisoning. Which, again, why are we doing a poisoning angle on WWE television in 2020? Can somebody explain this one to me? So, Vega's trying to beg her off. She's trying to get away from her. And Vega works Bella over and mounts her in the corner while talking some trash, yelling that she didn't do it. She's like really yelling. It's like, I didn't do it. I had nothing to do with it. Bella counters with a power bomb, then drops Vega face first with a alley-oop into the turnbuckle, and then hits the KOD for the 1, 2, 3. So Vega, who knows what happened? That's like the SmackDown hacker or a hacker in general would be great to see what actually happened, who actually was at fault for this poisoning. I don't know what's going on. I don't know who, well, of course, Vince McMahon approved this shit. I don't know who thinks this is a good idea. Carly Russo somehow just appears out of nowhere and asks about, is there any evidence? And she says, you want some evidence? And then goes on to show us absolutely no evidence, just assuming that Zelina Vega had something to do with this. Dawkins says the Street Profits at SummerSlam 2 weeks away. There's no way Ford is missing the biggest party of the summer. Says they're bringing the ruckus and the red cups and they want the smoke. And that was that. So, I don't know what's going on with this poisoning angle. I don't care about this poisoning angle. Is this the best they can do? Is Montez Ford going to actually miss SummerSlam? Or are they actually going to find a way to get him to come to SummerSlam and then have him be the one to take the pinfall and the Street Profits lose the tag team titles? We see how Apollo Crews retained the U.S. title over MVP last week. MVP is shown backstage with Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin. They're going to be holding a special investigation edition of the VIP Lounge. Back to commercial break. Back from break, the Hurt Business is in the ring. He says this is a very different, MVP says it's a very different VIP Lounge because he's not in the mood to pop bottles. He and his colleagues would rather pop knees and ligaments. By the way, didn't you guys say that Raw Underground was under new management? What happened to that? You guys were nowhere to be found at Raw Underground this week. He says that he goes on about how there really is a conspiracy in WWE. He goes on about how he's a world-class competitor and is supposed to win titles in these unsafe. How am I supposed to win titles in these unsafe working conditions? He says, I didn't beat Apollo Crews. Apollo Crews didn't beat me last week. The lights did. I mean, really? That's the best excuse you're going to come up with, is that the lights beat you. Says the lights beat him, not Crews. Wonders what Crews is. He's going on and it says, why aren't you flickering the lights now? Really suspicious. Out comes Apollo Crews, dismisses the complaint and brags about walking around with the expensive title that MVP paid for himself, in quotation marks, even though this title had been completed back in December and WWE was waiting for the right time, in their opinion, to debut it. Speaking of titles, the TNT Championship should be gold or whatever it's supposed to be this coming Wednesday. Should be interesting. Anyway, back to the show. He says, pretty much Apollo Crews is like, you just make an excuse for everything. You lose the match, you make excuses. Every time you lose, you make excuses. MVP says all Crews doesn't make bad decisions. Crews says he's allowed to make bad decisions because he's a bad man. Give me a break. They trade shots on the mic. Crews standing on the outside of the floor goes on and says the only lights going out on SummerSlam will be MVPs. Lashley and Benjamin come out to attack, but he gets into the ring and slaps MVP out of the ring, then picks up the couch, lifts it up over his head, and throws it down. And that was that as we go to commercial break. So we come back from break and we have the Apollo Crews versus Shelton Benjamin match, because as you would. And lo and behold, you think Apollo Crews has a title match in 2 weeks against MVP. Shelton Benjamin has been useless for the majority of his WWE tenure this time around. What would you do for Apollo Crews? Would you want to give him a win 2 weeks before he goes up against his rival MVP? Of course you wouldn't. What would you do instead? You would have Shelton Benjamin beat him, clean as a whistle, or in the middle of the ring. Lashley tried to interfere from the floor. Crews kicked him away. Benjamin takes advantage and distraction, rolls him up, and beats him 1, 2, 3. He didn't even beat him with a finisher. He beat him with a roll-up. Are you kidding me? This guy was gone for a month because of Corona, comes back, wins the United States Championship outright last week. And then this week, he gets pinned. Why would anyone want to be a champion in WWE? He didn't just get pinned, he got rolled up like a little loser. After the match, Bobby Lashley immediately hits the ring. He looks to put the full Nelson on, but MVP's like, no, Bobby, no, wait, stop. I need this dude to be healthy so I can be able to take that title away from him in 2 weeks. He wasn't able to make it last time. I need him healthy, so not now. He lets him go. MVP's like, you know what, man, I'm just trying to look out for you. Leads to an enziguri from Apollo Crews. He leaves the ring, and that was that. Then, we go to some footage from moments ago of Retribution throwing cinder blocks through a window, through a glass door at WWE Performance Center. So, we see this really small security guy running up to the WWE Performance Center doors, which are made of glass, when Retribution are there. He's telling them to go home, yelling at them. And they told him to get back, get out of the way. So, what happens? They take one cinder block, and they throw it through and break the glass. So they have another cinder block. What do? Both doors are made of glass. Instead of, throwing it through the other door and breaking that glass, they threw it through the same exact door, jump around thinking they did something special, and then run off like little children. Are these supposed to be a faction of people wanting to commit chaos, or are these the hooligans down the street who want to TP houses on Halloween? What is this garbage? This is the best you have for us? This was stupid. They're just childish they're childish people who don't give a shit, and it's just boring as can be. This is so stupid. WWE don't even know who these people are gonna be. Like, if you don't see, people want to compare this to the Nexus and how the Nexus was doing way better than this. Here's the difference: the Nexus made their debut on an episode of Monday Night Raw by beating up on CM Punk, John Cena, and the WWE WWE announcers, the ring announcer, destroying the WWE ring. These guys beat up a bunch of Performance Center talents and took a chainsaw to the ring, and that's it. There was no beating up on Braun Strowman, beating up on Jeff Hardy, beating up on Sheamus even. Nexus went after the top of the card and beat them down while destroying the ring. What are these guys doing? They're taking cinder blocks and throwing them through a fucking glass window or a glass door, jumping around and running away like little children. This is a failure. It's worse and worse every single time. It's not retribution, it's retro failure. This is a game. This is a joke. Why would anyone take these guys seriously? Time to move on. Something else, please. Sasha was backstage with Mickie James. She said she's happy to be back and lead the locker room. But the girls think that she doesn't have any gold on her mind. They're sadly mistaken. Lana and Natalya walk up, laughing at Mickie James. Mickie ends up insulting both of them and walking off, saying Natalya has built a legacy of her own, living off her family's coattails. She expects Lana to be Lana because it's Lana, and I guess she will have a match with Natalya next week. We get a video package of last week's Raw Underground, and then we see Ivar backstage with Demi Burnett, The Bachelor, who gives a shit. Eric, Cedric Alexander, and Ricochet walk up looking for Ivar. They get ready for their match. Demi said it's her fault because she thinks Ivar is cute, but Eric, not so much, because we'll keep going with that joke. Demi walks off and each other as Eric and the others laugh at Eric. Back to commercial break. So we have these 4 guys here, and they're going to have themselves an 8-man tag match. Who are they going to face? Akira Tozawa and his ninjas. Why? None of this shit is funny. This is just wasting our fucking time, garbage that nobody gives a shit about. Oh, for the 24/7 championship. 2 ninjas get destroyed, pretty much. This is what happens. 2 ninjas get destroyed. The other one wants to leave. Him and Akira Tozawa exit the ring, and they leave. The Viking Raiders, Cedric Alexander and Ricochet, win this match. Afterwards, the ninja that was with Akira Tozawa ends up pinning him for the 24/7 championship, and it turns out to be R-Truth. There, saved you some time. This needs to end. Nobody gives a shit about the 24/7 I-95 Eurocontinental Championship. Charlie is backstage with Drew McIntyre, asking about his comments last week and if he will have an eye on the Randy Orton match tonight. He said he wouldn't say something if he didn't mean it. Good on him. He goes on about Orton taking out people for self-preservation and makes sure he's on top of WWE for many years. He took the torch from Hall of Famer Mick Foley years ago, and he promises to rip that torch from Orton's hand at SummerSlam, kick him in the head as hard as he possibly can, and says he will realize that Evolution has just passed him by. Which, of course, if you do not know, that is a line that Triple H liked to use a lot when he was building Evolution back in 2002. That was his tagline, is that Evolution just passed you by. Now, Caruso stops him for a second to ask, what if Kevin Owens happens to rip the torch away from Orton tonight? He says if that's the case, he and Owens will have a long talk about the future of Raw. And we go back to break. And then the shit just keeps being piled on. Peyton Royce versus Liv Morgan. Why? Are we really going down this road of the Riot Squad versus Boston Hug connection from 2 years ago? Because that's all we had for majority of 2018 was Bayley and Sasha Banks versus Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, and Sarah Logan. Add another friend over, or just those two versus two members of the Riot Squad. But now it looks like it's going to be Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott versus Peyton Royce and Billie Kay in singles matches and in tag team matches. And of course, what would you do to keep this feud going? You have Liv Morgan do the job for Peyton Royce. I know that the word has come out that Vince McMahon sees Peyton Royce as a star in the making. She's going to be somebody that he wants to put stock into. But do we really need to have these two going out there? If you're going to make Peyton Royce a star, then break her away from Billie Kay ASAP. There's no reason for them to be together still. None whatsoever. Okay, let's see here. Yep, Liv Morgan lost. Who gives a shit? Shane McMahon approaches the security guard, which apparently the big security guard was actually the big, huge, 7-foot-tall ninja. I believe that was with Akira Tozawa for a couple weeks, and then I guess they were like, well, we're going to take him away from that, and we're going to put him here. Mac from Break and Shane McMahon is hosting another underground segment. Carol Bloom goes up with Riddick Moss. They have a big brawl. Riddick Moss wins. Who gives a shit? Asuka versus Bayley. This was your match of the night. These two. Now, we all talk about the 4 horsewomen of WWE, which are Bayley, Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte Flair. But if you want to talk about people who are just outside of that 4 horsewomen, you got to go with Asuka. Asuka and Bayley went out here. I cannot do this match justice when it comes to breaking it down and everything because they were just as good. Lots of submission attempts by both women. Bayley missed that elbow drop, so her elbow was compromised. She got a hold of Asuka's knee, got that compromised. These two went out there. They kicked each other's asses. Sasha got a tiny bit involved, but not too much to make it like... After weeks and weeks of phony finishes between Asuka and Sasha Banks, it was great to get a one-on-one match that ended great. Towards the end of the match, you had a lot of submission attempts by both women. But in the end, Bayley capitalized with a big buckle bomb into the corner. Bayley mocks Sasha, saying, does her walk that she would do, and then goes for the sliding elbow. But Asuka jumps up, hits her into the Asuka lock, and Bayley eventually taps out. Asuka will face Sasha Banks at SummerSlam. After the match, Banks hits the ring. Asuka goes and recovers on the outside. Asuka celebrates her title shot as the two sides stare each other down. We go back to our underground. Arturo Ruiz is in the platform. He talks about his amateur background. He beats the hell out of this poor dude that he had to deal with. And then we go back to break. We come back in Kato. He destroys another fighter, grabbing a fistful of jewels from below the belt. Which, yes, he did take this guy. He was just manhandling. And then he just grabs him by the balls and then knocks his ass out. And then who would come up but Shayna Baszler? And Dabakato wanted to take on Shayna Baszler, but he gets out of the ring, or out of the area. Baszler targets a few female women, beats the hell out of 3 women, and that was that. So that was the end of that. We cut back to the parking lot and we see Retribution with a car being turned over and possibly lit on fire or just smoking. They jump around on the car, yell and scream, and then run off. Okay, my question is, whose car was it? How did it get flipped? Because you ain't going to tell me that these 5 individuals were strong enough to flip over an actual car. Whose car was it? Why was it flipped over? How did it get flipped over? Why did they just jump around the car and then run away like little children? They're not coming off as scary. They're not coming off as threatening. They're coming off as fucking school kids playing pranks. That's all Retribution is. It feels like for me, is that these men and women are just, they feel like kids on Halloween night causing mischief and mayhem. That's it. It's a joke and it fucking sucks. This is what you have. And apparently, like WrestleVotes did say a couple months ago that WWE had this big plan for a storyline that was going to change, that was going to shake the foundation of WWE, and they held off on it because of no crowds. If this is what that was, this is a joke. Retribution is not going to be Nexus and will never be Nexus. This was, again, just stupid. Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens. We go to the ring, Kevin Owens comes out, all business staring Orton down. So they have themselves a brawl, they have themselves one hell of a match here. Orton blocks a stunner, Owens blocks an RKO. They keep brawling and beat the hell out of each other. Now, as we get to the end of the match, Owens follows Orton, nails a big belly-to-belly suplex onto the announce table. The referee counts Orton to bring it back into the ring for a 2 count. Orton can't believe it. Orton takes Owens to the top now, then rocks him. Orton climbs up and keeps fighting with Owens up high. Owens finally headbutts Orton to the mat. He follows up with a big senton for a close 2 count. Flair chants Orton on as Owens waits for him to get into the corner. He drops Owens drops down like Orton would do when he readies for the RKO. He gets up, it goes for the stunner, that gets blocked. RKO 1, 2, 3. Randy Orton beats Kevin Owens. And I'm sitting here and it's like 10:43 when this match opens, and I'm like, what else is going on tonight? What else? Orton stands tall. We go to Orton posing in the corner as Ric Flair cheers him on. Flair raises Orton's hand. He goes to leave, and Orton's like, hey, Rick, no, Rick, stop. Stay put. We're gonna celebrate and talk about a couple things, and then we go to commercial break. We come back, and Randy Orton is not happy with Ric Flair. He's like, I have a match at SummerSlam. This match was not necessary because of your ego. I had to have this match. He said, he brings up the fact that back in the day, about 2002, 2003, in I think it was Illinois, he got into a little bit of trouble that his dumbass 22-year-old self got into, and Ric Flair was the only person to get him out of it. But he says he doesn't love Rick anymore. He doesn't care about Rick anymore. He says Rick is a liability, and that he wants to get the WWE Championship, and he can't risk it with Ric Flair. Ric Flair takes the mic and says, I'm taking this personal, but I want you to become the WWE Champion. I'm not the old Ric Flair of old. You're right about that. I'm Charlotte Flair's dad, which that is not true. It's always going to be Ric Flair's daughter, no matter what. He says, I want to be there for your 14th, your 15th, your 16th, your 17th. I want you to break my record. They mentioned the illness that he had and in the coma he was in 2 summers ago that almost took his life. And that when he got out of that, he wanted to let everyone know that he cared about, that he loved them. He's getting very emotional. Now, Randy Orton takes the mic, throws it away, hugs him, and then low blows him. Says a couple things that we couldn't hear. I guess he whispered them to him. He gets up, gets into the corner. The lights are flashing down. As he goes to run and hit the kick, we actually don't get to see it because the lights flash off. As he goes to kick Ric Flair. And he does. And then he's sitting there saying something else to him when Drew McIntyre finally comes out. Calls him a psycho son of a bitch. And says, what, even him? And like they just have this epic stare down, this evil, pissed off stare down. The only thing they missed on this was pre-taped. They could have did a split screen where it was like Randy Orton on the left, Drew McIntyre's face on the right. You see the evil and the hate in both of these, and that is how Monday Night Raw went off the air, with Drew McIntyre staring down Randy Orton. And the opening thing was great when it came to Dominik getting his ass kicked and paying his dues one way or another. Bayley versus Asuka was a great match. This beating up on Ric Flair, hitting the punt, seeing the anger in Drew McIntyre's eye, which he's going to need to beat Randy Orton. These were the best 3 parts of the show. Raw on the Ground is still shit. Retribution is absolutely atrocious. They're like school children. And honestly, nothing else on this show was good. But let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Hit that subscribe button, comment down below. Like or dislike this video. Find me on Twitter at The France Club. Find me on twitch.tv/The France Club. Find me on Instagram at The France Club. And I'll see you guys Wednesday for AEW. Until then, my name is The France, and I'll see you guys later.